the Crown Prince. This is the most recognized title in royal tradition. A crown prince is the officially designated heir to a throne, meaning he is next in line to become king. The title usually goes to the eldest son of a reigning monarch, though different countries have different rules about how succession works. In many kingdoms throughout history, being named crown prince came with formal ceremonies, dedicated staff, and years of preparation for the responsibilities of ruling. Today, crown princes like those in Saudi Arabia, Japan, and Norway continue to represent the future of their royal families, the prince regent. When a king or queen cannot rule, whether due to illness, absence, or very young age, a prince regent steps in to govern in their place. He holds royal authority without technically holding the throne. One of the most famous examples is the future King George IV of Britain, who served as prince regent for nearly a decade, while his father, King George III, suffered from mental illness. The period became so associated with his style and influence that it was simply named the Regency era, the prince consort. Not every prince is born into his role. A prince consort is a man who becomes a prince because he married a reigning queen. He does not rule himself, and his title exists to reflect his position as the queen's husband rather than as an heir or sovereign. Prince Albert, husband of Queen Victoria, is perhaps the most famous prince consort in history. He was deeply involved in shaping British public life, arts, and industry during Victoria's reign, proving the role carried real influence even without official power, the foreign prince. Throughout history, royal families across Europe and beyond frequently arranged marriages between their children and the children of other kingdoms. A foreign prince was a prince from one country who often became politically important in another, either through marriage, alliance, or inheritance. These princes served as living bridges between nations, sometimes bringing peace and sometimes bringing conflict. The practice was so common in European history that many royal families became deeply interconnected over the centuries, sharing bloodlines across dozens of kingdoms, the warrior prince. Some princes throughout history were defined entirely by their role on the battlefield. A warrior prince was expected to lead armies, inspire soldiers, and secure the kingdom through military strength rather than diplomacy alone. The Black Prince of England, Edward of Woodstock, became one of the most celebrated military figures of the medieval world, leading victories at battles like Crécy and Poitiers. For many kingdoms, a prince who could not fight was seen as unfit to rule, the prince of the church. Not all princes held political or military power. In the Roman Catholic tradition, high-ranking church officials, such as cardinals, were sometimes granted the title of prince, recognizing both their spiritual authority and their real-world influence over large territories. These men often controlled enormous wealth and acted as political figures as much as religious ones. During the medieval and Renaissance periods, prince-bishops and cardinal princes shaped the politics of Europe just as powerfully as any king or emperor, the merchant prince. This type of prince earned his status not through royal birth or military conquest, but through extraordinary wealth and commercial power. The term merchant prince referred to figures who dominated trade, banking, and finance so completely that they wielded influence comparable to royalty. The Medici family of Florence are perhaps the most famous example, rising from bankers to rulers of one of the most powerful cities in Renaissance Italy. Their wealth funded art, shaped politics, and eventually placed members of their family on the papal throne, the puppet prince. History is full of princes who held titles while others controlled the real power behind them. A puppet prince was placed on a throne or in a position of authority by a more powerful force, such as a foreign empire, a dominant advisor, or a military leader, and was expected to do as he was told. The arrangement gave the controlling power a face of legitimacy while keeping true authority firmly elsewhere. Many princes in colonized regions during the Age of Empires found themselves in exactly this position, ruling in name only, the exiled prince. When kingdoms fell, were conquered, or went through revolution, princes often found themselves stripped of their homes and titles. An exiled prince lived in a foreign country, sometimes for decades, hoping for a return to power that often never came. These figures carried symbolic weight even in exile, representing a claim to a throne that others now occupied. Some exiled princes spent their lives petitioning foreign courts for help, reclaiming their kingdoms, while others quietly faded into obscurity far from the lands they were born to rule, the prince of a city-state. Not every prince ruled an entire country. During the height of the Italian Renaissance, many princes held power over individual cities or small territories rather than vast kingdoms. These rulers, sometimes called signori or simply princes, governed places like Mantua, Ferrara, and Milan with considerable sophistication. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote his famous political work directly addressed to this kind of ruler, advising on how to gain and hold power in a world where city-states competed fiercely for survival and dominance, the titular prince. Some princes carry a title that no longer corresponds to any real territory or governing power. A titular prince holds the name and rank of a prince by tradition or inheritance, but the land the title once referred to may no longer exist, may belong to another country, or may have changed beyond recognition. European nobility is full of such titles, preserved carefully by families even after the political realities that created them have long since disappeared. The title becomes a matter of heritage and identity rather than governance. The revolutionary prince. Occasionally in history, a prince turned against the very system that gave him his status. A revolutionary prince used his position, education, and connections to challenge monarchy, empire, or inequality from the inside. Prince Peter Kropotkin of Russia is one of the most striking examples, a man born into the highest levels of Russian nobility, who became one of the most influential anarchist thinkers of the 19th century, arguing passionately for the abolition of the very class structures that had made him a prince.